Do it again, do it again.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Other People. I have forgotten exactly which episode we're on. I know it's in the mid to probably late 20s currently, but who the hell really cares? I'm your host, Jordan. Joining me, as always, is my good buddy, Andy.
Yo.
And joining us today is our cover artist and Austin local-ish ninja QuickKick.
Hello, Internet.
Yes. Today's topic, because recently I understand that there is a video game that's going to be coming out sometime later this year called Hatred. And it's been sparking up quite a bit of controversy online, and so that kind of sparked this whole conversation with me about controversy in video gaming. Because when I first heard about it, it was just a offhand mention of this game, and nothing more. And so when I looked into it and I looked it up and watched the trailer on YouTube, my first immediate reaction was complete and utter disgust and confusion, and also because of the whole comment section, with it being just left and right oppositions clearly, like one comment saying something like, oh, well, if you, like or play games like this, clearly there's something horribly mentally wrong with you and you need to kill yourself and blah, 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 blah. And then another one saying something like, this is just another sign of like anti-feminism or whatever. Like, there was no middle ground, because it took me a few days for me, after thinking about this,
Was there even a woman in the trailer?
I believe a lot of the other innocent people that you are killing are women.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So it took me a few days to figure this out, and we'll be talking about this a lot at great length here. Is there anything more to this game than the controversy? No, it certainly doesn't look like it. And so I thought, like, other than that, when you think about controversies in games, like, what's another big one, that comes to your guys' mind? I'll just call on you guys. Andy, what's another one that...
Off the top of my head would have been the whole Mortal Kombat thing back in the... Was that mid-90s or late 90s?
It was very early 90s when the first Mortal Kombat started. It was 1992.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's the only one that pops into my head right now.
Yeah.
But that was a big deal with the whole violence and finishing people and...
Yeah, well, because it was the very first video game that ever finished, or that ever introduced the idea of a finishing move on your opponent, and it being, so brutal. But for us at the time, it's like, oh my god, dude, you totally ripped off that guy's head. That's so awesome.
Yeah, to where
or, dude,
nowadays
you just ripped out his heart. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, you look at it now, and I've gone back to the original Mortal Kombat so many times, and it's fun, but once you, get into playing a little bit more of it, like, it is incredibly clunky. It doesn't play very well.
Yeah, it hasn't aged very well, really.
No. I can still enjoy the retro-style digital look of it all.
Yeah, that whole realistic look, or...
Yeah.
Photorealism, or however they did it.
Yeah. It can still be a fun game, but today, would you play the original Mortal Kombat for an extended period of time? Probably not.
Not really. I never really got that far in it anyway.
Yeah. How about you, QuickKick?
I probably would not, just out of the fact that the newer ones have so much more to offer. As awesome and nostalgic as the classic may be, I feel like, when some of the newer ones came along, Yeah, I'm not a great historian on which one's which, but I remember when they started introducing like, story modes, create your own fighter modes, you
Mm-hmm.
characterize move sets, styles, and all that. You know, it's just it's just like a lot of classic games. It's like you can go revisit them for nostalgia, but are you still getting a great experience out of it? Compared to the newer ones, where you've got so much more goodness to be had.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mhm.
if I did go visit a Mortal Kombat game, it'll probably be one of the newer ones.
Yeah.
You know, uh, but then again, maybe you're having a classic game party and you want to bust out a few classic games like Pac-Man, Mortal Kombat, or something. It's got its own niche, but yeah, as far as enjoyability goes, it's really hard for games that old to keep bringing back new experiences for you.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Very, very much so. Yeah. Okay. So, now, and let's get back onto the game of Hatred. I don't know how much you guys might have looked into it because mostly I've just been looking at the Wikipedia page. I mean, I was telling Andy about it the other day.
hmm I've been watching gameplay footage of it. I've been watching the trailer, and then did a
Yeah.
little reading up on it, Wikipedia and stuff. Uh, I actually noticed something about it. I'll bring this up in a second, but we can keep going on the line we're going, and I'll bring it up. But I think I have to see something interesting in the gameplay that you're gonna like.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Because I only watched the trailer for it once. I mean, I did, watch it, from beginning to end. And then I went over to the Wikipedia page, which is where I'm at now,
hmm
because I just wanted to quote for everybody, because this is, the opening line of this game, and God, it feels so phony and forced and very 90s, especially with this line of dialogue that you get from your protagonist,
Mhm.
who says in the gruffest voice that you could possibly imagine, "My name is not important because the writers were not that creative. What is important is what I'm going to do. I just fucking hate this world and the human worms festering on its carcass. My whole life is just cold, bitter hatred, and I always wanted to die violently. Also, because I'm not that imaginative. This is the time of vengeance, and no life is worth saving, and I will put in the grave as many as I can. It's time for me to kill, and it's time for me to die. My genocide crusade begins here. Meh.
Broad. See, now you get
Yeah.
me all excited. You get me. I'm like, what? What is metal? Metal? Where? Yeah, you get me all excited.
No? No? Okay. Uh, it's.
It is, yeah, it's funny you talk about the protagonist and you watch the trailer and you watch all the game, you just look at him like, well, that whole little monologue is going on, you look at him, you're like, this is like the wet dream for every 90s goth trenchcoat mafia kid. He's
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
the long black hair. Even when he's loading his AK-47, he's pouting. It's like, ugh,
Yeah.
I don't
Meh,
like
meh.
this. Give me the grenade. Give me stick the knife in my pants. And he's got the trench coat, black boots, black. I bet you those are black cargo pants. I just bet you, with all the little buttons hanging off the side. His wallet's got a chain on it.
Mm-hmm.
It. It's like the '90s have come back to visit us. With
Yeah.
you know, so yeah, you know, but yeah, you talk about antagonists. It's like it's just a character you see on screen for 10 seconds, and then it's just the thing you happen to be controlling running around. There is no character there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no character. And, and like what was really getting me, like as I was reading the Wikipedia entry, and then all the people who were trying to make claims about, oh well, the capacity for violence in this is no different than when you go around and you kill innocent civilians in such games as Grand Theft Auto or Fallout. Like, well, that's not the object of those games.
Yeah.
This is the object of this game. Those
Yeah.
are your only opponents, and they're not fighting back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and
a
back
major
to, like,
fucking difference, people.
Yeah, and reading it to Fallout, it's like, that's only if you decide to go with a negative karma or
Yeah,
It's
and it
approach
will,
to everything.
backfire on you too. They will start
Yeah,
fighting back.
Yeah. I mean,
you'll wind up pissing people off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you name any kind of open world game, you can even go to stuff like Red Dead Redemption. Even you can do that. You can go around lassoing people in Red Dead Redemption. But like I said, people are going to wind up fighting back in that game. There's going to be consequences for taking that approach to playing the game.
Yeah.
This game that is the objective, is just body count and there's no other purpose to the game. You just go around killing people who apparently have done you no wrong.
Yeah.
They're just there. They're cannon fodder.
Yeah.
They're dirty conformists. That's what they are. They're friends with the man, so you gotta kill them all because, I don't know.
Because
That person looked at me cockeyed. I better shove my knife in his throat brutally.
They're not antisocial like I am,
Meh.
It's just,
And something I will admit to, when I was in high school, this was the late 90s. I started wearing a black trench coat, and I only did it because I saw The Matrix and I thought that was cool. Yeah. And then, of course, the whole Columbine thing happened, and so I was like, I should probably stop wearing this now because I was getting a lot of odd looks.
Like,
only after that period, and I was wearing a trench coat before all that shit happened and kind of made trench coats kind of unpopular for a little while.
It's like, God, he's going to kill us. Oh!
I will admit there was a
I remember that was a controversy. Oh, sorry.
What?
I was just gonna put in that was a whole thing after the Matrix played. Was that because they were wearing trench coats when they had the big shootout with the security guards during the climax of the Matrix? That was a big controversy.
I didn't hear about that being a controversy, but I'm pretty sure people before the Matrix ever existed were using trench coats for other nefarious purposes other than streaking and flashing people. So,
well, it does make it easier to hide stuff.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it does. It does. And, it was, and, I mean, does this, and like something else I was going to mention too, was that it looks like also as part of the game as well that there are, like how in a lot of other games, like say Fallout or various other games, how there, are the slow-mo, ultra kill scenes and such, or like various execution moves. Well, there are executions in this game as well, which was really what made me, really raise my eyebrow and go, whoa. Because there were various scenes of basically, your protagonist, I almost called him Hero, but no, he's not a fucking hero.
Yeah.
Taking a shotgun, pointing it point blank at somebody's face, like as they're, laying on the ground, and then, just blowing their frickin' head off, or brutally stabbing them to death, like several frickin' times, and then doing this to various civilians and police officers and such. And the whole time, not a lot of them are fighting back. Maybe except for police, but that's because you're brutally murdering people. So.
And I'm glad you brought that up because this is what I was going to point out a second ago. All right, I've been watching this trailer a couple times. I've been watching all the different, like you were pointing out, the kill animations. And I want to make a declaration. QuickKick, Cinema Ninja, I call out the makers of Hatred for stealing the kill animations from Punisher the video game that came out about 5 to 10 years ago. Because I'm watching these animations. And
really?
Yeah, I'm watching them right now, especially the shotgun one you just mentioned. It's virtually the same exact execution the Punisher you could do with the Punisher when you execute the criminals in Punisher. I forget the title. I think it was just called Punisher the Game, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
If you're talking about the same one where you can interact with the game level environments for added kill bonuses and such.
Yes, and you can
Yeah.
interrogate the criminals at the same time and
Yeah.
do all that stuff. Yeah, I'm watching this and I'm just like, that's where they got these animations from. Because look at, it looks like they have decent graphics in the game, some decent looking environment damage and stuff. But something about those death animations I was like, this looks really familiar. And I was like, wait a minute. That's, the whole thing where he picks up the guy and shoots him in the back of the head with a shotgun. I was like, that's from The Punisher. So yeah, I want to call them out on this podcast, and I want to say that these guys took animation from The Punisher to help make their game. I defy someone to prove me wrong.
Well, I haven't played the Punisher game in many years. I did play it for a good length, and I will say it was a very good game. I'm not gonna, say like, oh, well, it was horribly violent, blah, blah, blah. You were killing criminals. You were killing murderers and such. So, and I don't have a problem with that. So, and it's a fucking video game. Now, and like the same case could be made for this or any other, horrible video game. Like there is a game made, it's on the list here, if I can find it. It was made in 2002, 2003, I think, called Ethnic Cleansing.
Oh, yeah.
Made for the PC. It was made by a white supremacist group who call themselves...
Was it
what is this?
Volksfront, I think? No, not Volksfront.
Created by the American White Nationalist Organization, National Alliance,
Okay.
and published by Resistance Records. Resistance Records sounds more like something, where you would think, it was a black-powered group, or something like that. Not, a white supremacist group, but
Apparently
whatever.
they are.
Yeah. I think they were that white supremacist recording album, I think. They did like a bunch of metal and hardcore stuff back in the day. Trying to remember, because I was back in like the 90s going into the 2000s when the white supremacists and skinheads were trying to redefine themselves and go after the next generation, because this was after like the Turner Diaries and stuff. And a lot of big lawsuits went out against white supremacist groups for basically recruiting and training, the next generation of neo-Nazis to kill people. So after that, they were trying to redefine themselves for the next gen, and a lot of like $10, single person made first person shooters came out that basically stole the skin from Doom and made these, like you said, ethnic cleansing and all these other games.
Yep. Yep. They actually used, I should probably bring it back up here. They used an existing engine along with some kind of an editor. The engine is called Genesis 3D that they used in order to make a lot of the game. I think I remember somebody a while ago did a YouTube Let's Play of it. And the graphics, currently, because I probably watched it maybe like a year or two ago, the graphics looked like shit. They looked like crap. Like it looked like an N64 game. And this was made in 2002. So, just incredibly blocky and,
Yeah. I mean, these were not quality or any kind of studio-made games, so it's nothing the majority of the public needs to be. I mean, this is stuff they would bring to concerts, like underground, skinhead concerts they'd be passing around to other skinheads and stuff. So,
white power, yo.
Yeah, it was never something that was a big thing, but it definitely happened for a while, and it's probably still going on to some degree.
Yeah, I especially thought it was funny how there at the end of the story, the head of the National Alliance, or whatever the fuck these morons are calling themselves, said, "Oh well, this game sold over and like he was so proud of it too, about how like this game sold like thousands of copies within a couple of months. Like that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's terrible.
Now, granted, Now, granted, it was only a $15 game,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe a couple of thousand in a couple of months is good. Like maybe they made back their shitty budget, but
It's like, oh, they really got crushed by Assassin's Creed. You know, they didn't really do so well that month. But
yeah, yeah.
they're gonna
Oh, jeez.
they're gonna try again. You know, and it was still less buggy than Assassin's Creed Unity.
Uh,
Oh,
oh snap!
burn!
Did I do that?
But and from what I was reading, especially, they were talking about how like there were supposed to be a whole slew of like other sequels, but there was only one other sequel that has a different name to it. I'm not going to mention it here. And really, I mean, the only reason kind of why we're talking about this is because Hatred is a game that, it's like any other game like this. Like, for example, another game that came out 10 years ago, Super Columbine Massacre RPG, that I only heard about because one of the YouTube channels I follow was doing their own discussion about controversial video games, because a lot of these games you're not going to find in the mainstream. Like, you probably have to, go around the net and try to find like some sort of a pirated download or something for it. But Hatred got greenlit on Steam and is going to be available on Steam, which is a mainstream way of getting video games.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And what was interesting was that originally when it was first greenlit on Steam, Steam removed it at first. But then they brought it back with an apology from the maker of Steam, which was a little odd to me because I would think, like, why the fuck would you take this piece of shit back? But, oh well, I suppose.
It gets into the big discussion of
Free speech.
if free speech, and also, to what extent can Steam affect these games? Because as abhorrent as the game may be, the reality is it is a independent market that Steam has become, and I believe Jeff from Rage Select was talking about, the decision they make can either make or break a game as far as its success. And while, this time it was a game, it was just like, well, who wants this? Whatever. Maybe another game comes out that's not so blatantly about, just murder porn. Maybe it comes out and there's some other controversy around it. Well, that game gets pulled, and say it's an independent studio that's banking on this game becoming a success. Say Steam caves to some kind of political pressure, that studio can go out of business. Those people can lose their job, or, with some of these independent studios, people could lose their livelihood because they've put their, they've maxed out credit cards, they've put their mortgage up, or whatever, and they're just trying to get that game out. So, whilst that's a far stretch from what's happened with this game, I don't know, maybe the makers of Hatred did put a lot of effort into it, but I guess it becomes an issue of, the effect that taking down the game can have and the repercussions of that, not just within the game itself, but what it can do to other people's lives, I guess.
And you were saying earlier about how people obviously who do want to get into the gaming industry, who probably start out very small, they put all of their effort, all their hard work, and all their money into it. I have seen that only in pretty small number with a few games where it was very minimal, but it did its job, where they managed to make this game that was fun and interesting, and maybe even and maybe it even had a special message to it too, from the creator that was maybe meant for you to interpret in any other way. A game like this, where it does look like they have decent graphics for the time, where it certainly looks like these are graphics that are made for current gen systems.
Mm-hmm.
but is the game anything more than just murder porn? Like, does it have any sort of special message? No. Does it seem to have any other form of a deep meaning? No. I mean, like, the only other thing I did take from it is that, oh, well, the world is black and white because it's meant to symbolize that everything is just black and white and there is no middle ground. It's kill or be killed. That's the rule of the jungle, baby.
You know, things that
I would think, like,
went out of style a long time ago, quite frankly.
yeah, I mean, it just kind of screams to me. And this is certainly something that has been said by gaming journalists and such, of which we are not, of course. We're just guys on the internet, who are just giving our opinions. It just screams of childishness and kind of unimaginativism, if that's even a word. I'm sure it's not. And I mean, I'm not the kind of person who would ever say, I don't know. I mean, there might be varying degrees, but I don't think I would ever say a game needs to be banned because of its content. But it would probably really have to depend on. But then again, I mean, a game with any type of content, where it's like, oh, the object of the game is to go around and viciously rape as many women as you possibly can. You are not going to see that in the mainstream anywhere.
Well, no.
At least not without it being severely cut and edited. But there are games out there like that, but they're only available probably somewhere on the dark recesses of the internet, if you really know where to look.
Or in some
Like,
very
there's
exclusive adult stores.
Yeah, there was a game that came out, I want to say 1998, if I'm getting that right, but it is on the list. Let's see, where is it? And I will edit this. Shit, I can't find it now. It was called Rape Lay. Here it is, Rape Lay.
Okay.
One word. It was made in 2006. And rape is a core gameplay of the game. The story of the game, as I understand it, is that, it's primitive 3D modeling where you rape a mother and her two daughters. It's PC only. It was made somewhere in Japan.
God damn it, Japan.
Yeah. What the fuck?
I was just going to say, it's like, of course it was.
The old Rage Select saying, it's just, God damn it, Japan.
Yeah. And I'm sure it didn't see much attention. I mean, other than the controversy. But like I was saying pretty early on, controversy in gaming doesn't just mean, violence or racism or any sort of or anti-feminism or anything like that. While I was going over this list, I found one that made me go, wait, what? And that was that The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is on this list.
Okay,
Really?
What was the controversy for that?
The controversy was, in early versions of the game, the music for the Fire Temple contained chanting from a Muslim prayer.
Okay.
Yeah, but...
That's pretty unique. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
And, well, it seems that in later versions, they changed it and just, replaced it with some more... with a more unique set of music. Mostly they did it out of fear of offending the Muslim community.
Okay.
I guess, what did it mention which prayer or the significance of it? Or was it just the fact they had stolen somebody's prayer and used it without any permissions or something like that?
It says that it was music that was found in a library of stock sounds.
Okay.
So it must have been domain usage. So I don't think that they could get sued.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look that. That's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Well, well, and I mean, I don't know if you would offend the Muslim community by using their music.
I
Maybe depending on the depiction of it, but
Well,
and like that was something that for me was like, wait, Legend of Zelda committed a controversy? Like, what the hell did Zelda ever do to piss off so many people? Like, oh, well, that's not so horribly bad, but obviously it was never brought to so much of a great attention, though.
yeah, and I wonder how much of that it was a actual uh, controversy, and not just someone making up, oh, this was an issue. Let's blow this out of proportion.
yeah, it was probably like one Muslim who was maybe complaining about it.
Well, I don't think that was the case. It was probably Nintendo probably figured like, oh, you know what? Maybe we should change that.
Yeah. That could.
Because I could, well, because after all, I mean, there have been so many controversies just in, or like just from the fundamentalist Muslim community in general over anything that is related to the Muslim faith at all. I mean, like you make any sort of weird Muslim joke in any form, and they take it incredibly harshly. So
yeah, and I guess that goes for everybody.
Yeah, I was just gonna say some Christians do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's a unique piece of trivia, man. I gotta go look that up now. I'm not great at, but that's kind of cool. But I'm trying to think how we got off on this. It was about controversies, correct? About different games associated.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to point out earlier we were talking about classic games that had controversy. Doom. The old first-person shooters, especially after Columbine. I remember people were talking about, because it's a first-person shooter, they were like, oh, you have the perspective of holding a gun. These guys learned how to shoot, by using Doom, or even Halo. When Halo came out, and it was, the big technological advance with first-person shooters, people were like, oh, it's going to teach kids how to use a gun, and it's just, as someone who's used guns and trained with guns, is just, okay, look at that. You can have iron sights on the game. Whoop-de-doo. It's like a whole
It doesn't
world
really
apart.
account for the wind or the recoil or
Yeah, and even how you hold
the dang thing.
Yeah, you hold the thing, you resight it, where you put your finger on the trigger. It's a whole thing. It's a whole world of its own. So but I do remember
not
those.
really teaching you anything.
No, it's like, well, even when Call of Duty, people were like, "Oh, it's so realistic. You can line up the iron sights." It's like, oh, they got iron sights on the gun. Imagine that. It's just
what a leap.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who's ever held a gun in their life is like, yeah, that's not such a big deal.
Well, and it's also the fact too that a great counter argument to be made, against people say like, well, Wolfenstein 3D, you're going around and murdering people. You're murdering Nazis, and you're murdering Hitler. They're bad guys. They're trying to kill you. Hell, Doom, you're fighting demons
who are trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Counter argument. You're fighting bad guys.
Yeah. I mean, and you can make a good discussion talking about, if someone wanted to talk about, the whole bad guy versus good guy way of storytelling. Does that desensitize people to, like we talked about the Punisher game earlier? Does Punisher or does storytelling like that desensitize you to where, okay, it's okay to kill criminals? They're not human. They're wood. So you can make a discussion out of that, but people try to they don't go with that argument. They like to go with, okay, video games are making people violent. It's like, you know. So I was doing some research on some articles talking about violent video games. If we want to go into talking about articles now,
Sure,
since
Yeah, why not?
since hatred is bound to bring up people. I try to remember. It wasn't hatred. Earlier this year, after the Sandy Hook shooting, um, President.
Oh, I don't think I heard about that one.
I don't think I
Okay.
have either.
Uh, okay. Well, Sandy Hook. If I remember correctly, was, oh geez, this last. I gotta look up the date now. It happened this last year, and it was at an elementary school where a teenager walked into a elementary school with some let's see here. It was a shotgun assault rifle and a couple of handguns, I believe, and
Jesus.
he shot first before he went to the school, he had shot his parents or his grandparents that were raising him at their house, and then he went to the school, shot a teacher and shot several of the elementary school kids. Uh, trying to get the details here, so I'm not making any misquotes. December 14th of actually 2012. Excuse me.
Wow.
And he was 20-year-old Adam Lanza shot 20 children and 6 adult staff members.
Good God.
Yeah, and by the time
Clearly somebody disturbed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and by the time first responders got to the scene, Lanza committed suicide. But that in a nutshell. That's the Sandy Hook shooting. After that,
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
This was like 3 years ago.
2012.
Okay. Okay.
But
I
yeah.
might have heard about it at the time, but just don't remember it now.
yeah,
So.
the whole reason I'm bringing it up is just after that whole debacle. One of the things that happened was President Obama issued for more research to be done on violence in video games. So with a release with a game like Hatred, with the amount of controversy coming out, I think it's only going to be natural that more people start looking for research on the correlation between video games and violence.
Despite the fact that they've actually already researched that and found that like maybe 2% of the people are actually affected by that, and they're usually mentally impaired anyway.
Yeah, and I got an article here from The Guardian, which actually just came out in November of 2014. Christopher Ferguson, a psychologist at Stetson University in Florida, did 2 studies into media violence. And one of the things that he was pointing out in one of his studies was that, a lot of the studies that go into violence and video games, a lot of times they'll just expose the test subject to clips of violence, or they'll expose them to only violent sections of the media without exposing them to the entire narrative context.
Yeah.
Right.
So for this particular game with Hatred, okay, that could make for a more honest not testing ground, but a more honest way of testing, because the whole game is focused around violence.
Yes.
But a lot of the other games that have been cited in the past, like Grand Theft Auto, what's some other ones that were big, but yeah, a lot of these other big games where the violence isn't the sole mechanic, it's a part of the game, but it's just a part of it. A lot of times they would take those particular games and just expose them to the violent sections of it, and then they would try to draw conclusions from that. And he's like, well, that's not scholarly honest, or it's not scholarly, but that's not honest research. That's just fixing the results.
Yeah, that's making it fit your point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think if the game like Hatred could do any good in the future, is like maybe that could be a more honest way of uh, being, I guess, a more polarized or more singular example of, okay, if someone could play this game, a game solely about going around and killing, and that affects them in a certain way, at least that is the entirety of the game. They're not selectively choosing portions of the
Yeah.
game. You know.
Yeah, kind of like
Yeah.
when Fox News had their little controversy about Mass Effect, saying that it was a porn simulator.
I don't believe they said that it was a porn simulator. They said that it was a rape simulator.
Was it
Rape?
rape? I thought it was porn.
It's in here. Let me see
Yeah,
it.
I do remember that quote you're talking about, though, Andy.
Falsely accused by evangelical blogger. I'm gonna screw up his name, of containing rape and sodomy.
Ah, okay, so it was a rape. It was more of a rape simulator then. Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny because I didn't play the Arrival DLC, but I went through all the other ones. I don't remember being able to rape. I don't remember that option ever coming up in any of the three
Yeah,
games.
the whole scene that they were talking about was completely optional. It was towards the end of the game, and it was a romantic thing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
And I'm pretty sure there's no sodomy in there. Well, I mean,
Yeah, and
there might,
you
there may
don't
be
really,
some
you don't even
suggested sodomy.
see anything. You get like a little bit of side boob in the female character's butt. That's about it.
Well, the sodomy they're talking about is if you romance the shuttle pilot Rodriguez.
Oh, was that for the third one? Because
Yes.
I remember hearing about that.
Yes, it was in the third one. You had the option to romance, I believe, Vega and Rodriguez. Those were the two you could romance as a male shepherd.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so
But,
when they're
wasn't there
referring to the
also-
sodomy, they're not talking about the literal. Go ahead.
Now, I was just gonna say because I remember something else was that in the third one was that you could have a gay, a short romance between the male shepherd and another male soldier.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there is like a lesbian thing between the female shepherd and your yeoman.
Yes.
Oh, in Mass Effect 2, Yeoman Kelly Chambers.
Yeah,
Kelly
that
Cham-
was Mass Effect 2. We're talking about the third one. There's another one.
I
I can't remember her name, but she's very British.
She's always going ranting about her toothbrush. Her amazing toothbrush that can generate a Mass Effect field in her mouth.
Yeah.
I was just like, wait a minute. We're sitting here.
I haven't even played the third one yet, so I have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
It's good. It's very good.
Yeah. You'll
Dude,
like
I'm
the
so
third one, but
lost.
then again, you haven't even finished the second one yet.
I've barely even played the second one, but again, I didn't like the second one, mostly because of how they changed it from being more action based. So, but I've been meaning to try to get back into playing the entire Mass Effect series, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also, I was gonna make a joke about how the suggested sodomy was probably just, oh, come on, baby, please.
Just
Let me put it in your pooper. Come on. You'll like it.
see, that works up until she rolls over, opens her little drawer, and then out comes that like 10-inch black dildo she's been saving for you. She's like, okay, I get to do it to you.
No. It's not what I meant. It's not what I meant. Oh, wow. Actually, this does feel nice.
Then you really get to decide how bad you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what else is interesting? As I'm looking over this list, and of course there are the other blatantly obvious controversial games. After Mass Effect, on this list comes Mario Party 8, and then after that comes a game called Muslim Massacre.
Ay.
And
I don't know if Mario has been massacring Muslims, but it seems like those two
Yeah.
games. Seems like those two games
Yeah.
don't belong in the same list. I don't know.
oh, Mario, it's me, Mario. I'm
I'm
gonna
going to
blow your
master you,
Muslim brains
Muslims.
out. Yeah. And the reason why Mario Party 8 is on here is because, and this is, again, this just feels so random because I guess somewhere in the game they use the phrase turn the train spastic, make this ticket tragic, because based on the character Kamek, caused controversy in the United Kingdom where the word spastic is considered offensive. This led to a recall of the game. It was later re-released with the word changed to erratic. It's like, that's so random. It's like, how is that so controversial? It's like,
They stepped in.
really?
They stepped in and said, "Excuse me, Mario. That term is very offensive. We would prefer if you would say erratic. Erratic is the proper use of the word." I don't know.
Oh, okay. But is it okay then if I still remain to be an Italian stereotyper?
Yeah, that
Well,
is
of
a
course,
point,
we've
isn't it?
gotten used to that.
Well, and yeah, I mean, he's a charming Italian stereotype.
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
I guess that's okay.
That is weird. And again, it's like coming on the same list as Muslim massacre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just,
It's like I don't think you're
oh,
weighing
paint
the
a weird
you know,
picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like your priorities.
Or hell, or hell, you got the game Fat Princess, which I haven't played. I heard about as being a good game. The reason it's on here is because feminists argued that the game concept and title was hostile to women, as opposed to just being a fun, silly little game.
Fat
Okay.
princess.
Yeah,
Well, my anaconda don't want none if you don't got buns on.
got buns.
I don't.
It's true.
That. Sorry. I
Yeah.
apologize.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I actually, I have I actually have that song on my iPod. So,
Nice.
and of course, I'm sure if my brother were here, he would, love to add the fact that, yeah, you also got some Richard Marx on there too. One fucking song. It's one fucking song. God damn it. Let me have my guilty pleasures.
Oh yeah. But
Um,
I mean, so speaking of since we're talking about the controversies in relation to relation to this hatred game, I guess the question is there some kind of like mysterious ending that nobody knows about where all this is put in some kind of pretentious as though it might be, is it put in like some kind of context where like at the end of the game you see like, oh player, you're such a horrible monster, we all have evil inside of us, or something, something where they try to do a flip on the player where like, okay,
I could see that, but somehow I
Yeah,
kind of doubt that the
I
creators are that
mean,
creative.
I mean, I'm
doubt it.
looking. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking, but I'm not seeing anything like that around where they try to do a bait and switch.
Yeah.
It's to my knowledge, the game is just the same thing throughout. So
Well, and like this is kind of off topic, but the only time but the only time I ever remember a game doing a bait and switch, but this felt like a really wrong bait and switch, and it was something that kind of continued until they realized, yeah, you know what, that's kind of stupid. Let's not do that anymore. And that was the Assassin's Creed series with the whole that whole being in the Middle Ages thing. Those are just flashbacks via this machine. It's actually present day. Wait, what?
Yeah, you're just having
that's stupid.
racial memories of your ancestor or something.
Yeah. Because the first time I experienced that for me was like, wait, what?
yeah. I mean, I'll go on this one. I'll say the one thing, and then we can get back on topic so we don't go down another rabbit trail. But I'll say my feelings on that
Too
are
late.
yeah, I know, right? Our feelings on that are summed up perfectly in when you're playing as Ezio, And you go through the whole game avenging the death of your family, getting to know Ezio, getting to know all the other characters, having fun, doing this great stuff. And yet, you occasionally take a side mission as uh, um, Adam Sandler, the guy in the Animus, Adam Sandler.
I forget his name too.
Yeah, but who really cared what his name was? But you have flashbacks to him every once in a while. But at the end of the game, you finish the game as Ezio, and you come to meet the space goddess or whatnot, and she's standing right there. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Spoilers for Assassin's Creed.
Anybody who hasn't actually played that.
Spoilers for 4 games ago, Assassin's Creed.
Well, I haven't, so but
yeah, you basically you finish the game. There's supposed to be this point where your 2 characters meet across time, and they're talking to this space goddess who's going to try to take over the world and all that. And you're standing there, and the space goddess is talking to your modern day character, and he's like, "What?" Like Keanu Reeves, kind of like, "Whoa!" And meanwhile, Ezio, the badass assassin, is standing in the background, just going, "Hey, hey." What about me?
Jackass.
What about me? And she's just ignoring it. The whole scene is just ignoring your favorite character in the entire game while he fades out to black, and he's just like, "Hey, what about me?" And I was like,
"Don't you know who I am?
I'm Ezio.
I'm Ezio, bitch."
Ezio Auditore. And I'm just like, yeah, that's a good question. Why do I give a shit about Adam Sandler in the Animus when I've got Ezio Auditore that I've been going on this adventure with for the last 20 hours or so. But
avenging my family, for God's sakes.
Yeah, in the most most flamboyant Italian, non-stereotypical way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, but yeah, that's my feelings on that topic. So.
Yeah. Again, if that was or is what the creators of this game would do, or later say like, oh, like this whole thing has been a simulation in order to create like the ultimate killing machine or whatever, for like some sort of a statement against violence or whatever. Kind of a double standard, blah, 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 blah. Somehow I can't see them being that creative, especially with everything that I've seen, especially, with that opening bit of dialogue. Dark and hatred. I'm going to go sit in my room, listen to The Cure, and cut myself. It's like, I just can't see that.
Yeah.
But,
post something emo.
Yeah. I'm going to go post something emo on Facebook.
Yeah,
which is a terrible thing to say. I know, but I thought it was funny. But and again, controversy, is not, of course, only related to violence. There are several other games that were mentioned on here. Of course, as I've already mentioned a few, like Zelda being on here, that just felt out of place and made me wonder, like, wait, what? And bear in mind, I only got this list because I, went to Google and typed list of controversial video games and just got this whole list. And the first one that comes up is a game made in 1973. A game I've probably never heard of and probably never played.
Oh, yeah.
Called
That's
Gotcha.
The one with, oh, shit.
Custer's Revenge?
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of his name for some reason.
No. This was a decade before Custer's Revenge. This was only in the arcade. It's a game called Gotcha. And here's the thing. The game is, it's a maze game where it's 2-player. I don't know if it can be, player versus computer or whatever, where you run around, and you chase the other person until you can catch them. Well, the controversy is due to the controls being perceived as pink rubber bulges that were meant to represent breasts and were squeezed in order to control the action. Now, it was made by Atari, and as I understand it, back then, when Atari was making video games, I've heard a lot about this from Kevin J. Baird.
Kevin.
who would tell stories about how apparently whenever the game designers over at Atari, whenever they would make a game or something, they would just get stoned out of their heads and say, what if you were this archer and you were shooting at centipedes, but because the technology was so limited, they had to work with what they had. But wow, it's like that again. It feels so random. And then the next game on that list is a game called Death Race, which came out about 3 years later. And though it says in the description of the game that you're running over gremlins, not people, but because they're represented as stick figures,
it could very well be people.
Yeah, I mean they do emit screams when you run over them and such, but also it presents an interesting game challenge because after you kill them, their body is replaced by a tombstone, which as you're driving, you then have to try and avoid. So, and then of course, as Andy already mentioned, the Custer's Revenge, which I never played, but I've heard about.
Yeah, I've vaguely heard about it.
Yeah. Punch-Out, formerly known as Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, but they had to change the name after the controversy. But that's primarily on here because of the numerous instances of racial stereotyping for all of the opponent boxers who you fight. And yeah, I'll agree to that, but
back in the time,
I mean, it was perfectly okay to be racially insensitive. What?
I forget when did Punch Out come out?
That was 1984.
84. Okay, so it was still because I was thinking I'm trying to think of there were some other games that got fixed or limited releases because of racial reasons. But then again, that was in like the 90s, and you had the Rodney King and all that. But
I forgot to mention this, that when they released the ethnic cleansing video game, they released it on Martin Luther King Day.
Ooh.
Oh yeah,
So,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we're inhuman pieces of shit. Fuck you. Yeah.
Yeah, they were really kind of grinding that in, weren't they?
Yeah. It's like, go fuck yourself and die. Anyway.
But I guess that brings up the next inevitable discussion is I think we touched on it earlier was do games like this are they to kind of be judged by the public on Steam, or should we allow Steam to dictate which games are and aren't released, or is there some outside entity like censoring by the government? Because
well, I think
because that whole thing's gonna come up again.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
I think that primarily. It does depend on a lot of factors because I don't know if we were talking about this earlier, originally on Facebook together, but there's already been a growing controversy with a lot of the indie early access games on Steam. Many of them being like there was a game that came out a while ago. I forget the name of it. Where there was an online reviewer who did a review of it, and it was a zombie first-person shooter, but it was incredibly buggy. A lot of the art and music seemed incredibly unoriginal and such, and the creator retaliated in a very childish form, taking the reviewer's video of it and just posting the subtitled comments against said reviewer, calling him fat and stupid and blah 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 blah, and then finally about a week later, in the ultimate act of childishness, just getting his video banned off of YouTube, and only doing it because the critic reviewed their game incredibly harshly because he said, your game sucks. It's broken. and it's unoriginal, and a lot of your own art is stolen from various other artists and even taken from Google Images,
Yeah.
as a lot of other people have pointed out.
Yeah. There's been a bunch of that going on.
God damn it.
It,
Sorry,
All
I'm
right.
trying to turn off my phone.
Oh, see, amateur hour. I can't work with
Yeah.
this. I'm a professional ninja here. I can't work with this.
No!
No,
You're all we
no!
have! And all we can afford, which isn't much.
Yeah, no, that's happened a couple of times. Uh, some notable examples: Angry Joe, Total Biscuit. Those guys.
Oh,
They,
yeah.
yeah, they made entire videos on specifically was it Gary event?
I think I know what you're talking
Gary
about.
Day One. Let's see here. But yeah, Total Biscuit did a whole video talking about how broken the YouTube system was for, just not only if your video gets tagged, with some copyright material, but how vulnerable people are to
Oh, are you talking about the day one
Gary's
Gary event?
yeah, Gary's incident.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, it's just how vulnerable a lot of YouTubers are to these underhanded tactics by a lot of indie developers who can essentially get them kicked off YouTube because they gave them a negative review.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is an issue in and of itself.
Yeah. And really, I mean, like I was going to say, it would, I mean, whether the game is just a crappy game that just has the violence in which to sell it, and the controversy to sell it, maybe it's not. Maybe it is a perfectly well programmed game that flows smoothly, that just has this heavy amount of violence and controversy to it. Hopefully, it's at least judged for what it is,
And not for controversy.
Yeah. Which I know is a weird thing to say. I mean, I don't plan to play it. I probably couldn't, because I don't think my computer would be powerful enough to probably be able to play it. And also, well, I mean, when I saw this, I really felt like this is something that should not be supported, or anything like that. Because, of course, that's my moral judgment. But, I mean, I wouldn't want to outright say, like, oh, well, we need to ban this, because, like, I think that's wrong. And also, like, you're setting a precedent, too, when you do that.
Yeah. Well,
Because you ban something, then that means that, oh, well, anybody can use that for any excuse to ban anything that they wanted. And then they could
that
use...
harkens back to that whole SOPA thing again.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of the excuse the developers and movie people were trying to use to basically ban content from the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think, and I don't know how to try to put this because, again, I'm not a professional or anything like that. It should try to be judged on its own merits. Is it a good, competent game? It's probably got perfectly good controls that work to some extent and that are as accurate as they can be. Does the game have any more context or anything else from it? Probably not, but then again, I haven't played it. I do wonder if any mainstream gaming critics, well, more than likely they will look at it, because it will be coming out on Steam. I do wonder how many of them will be looking at it and then judging it or doing videos on it and then say, like, well, like, I'm against this, but if you want to play it, it's available for you at a pretty reasonable price. I don't know how much it's supposed to be going for. I don't even know exactly when exactly it's supposed to be coming out. So
Yeah, I've seen a few YouTube videos for it where people are doing reactions and yeah, basically
yeah,
like we're doing right now, just talking shop about it and seeing what everyone thinks.
yeah.
Yeah. But
When I think reaction video, uh, I just think people going, "Oh my god, oh," which doesn't really do much. It's just, okay, you did that. Why? It's like, I don't know. Because because like a real reaction video, to some extent, uh, for me, because and I mean, again, maybe it's just because, I'm just a cynical fag, blah 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 blah. To me, that just feels fake. For me, what feels realer would be like, hey, I just watched this trailer or this video. I'm going to give you my thoughts on how I feel about it and what I think about it. That feels more realer to me than like, oh, wow, oh, dude, did you see that? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. And video end.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But anyway.
yeah. I think this is kind of like I think probably is what a majority of people are saying right now is that they kind of prefer to let the public kind of not censor but kind of be the
The
judging
ultimate judge.
the ultimate judge of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is I don't think this game would have gotten past the Steam green light as far as news. It may have gotten passed
No.
around here and there, but because it generated controversy, people are looking at it, talking about it. But I
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
think like you said, a lot of the games out there that are just grotesquely violent or encourage heinous acts, they don't even they don't even make it past the startup pages where they're on. People
Nope.
don't talk about it because there's nothing to talk about. It's just even with this or even with a rape game, unless your predisposition to that kind of violence or if that's your stimulus, in which case you have other problems than just this violent video game in your
Oh
life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Games like that they don't sell because there's no substance to them. That no that um that thrill you get from mowing down hundreds of people like in Hatred, it's gonna wear off really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing to it. There's nothing to bring you coming back to the game, and I think that'll naturally weed out a lot of games like this. And at a certain point, if you want to get into talking about underage gamers getting a hold of it, it's like, well, that is what the censoring system is for. That's what good parenting,
Yeah.
keeping an eye on your kids is for. And uh, I think that does a lot. At least for right now, that system's working pretty well. Occasionally we have controversies where these games get a lot of attention. And everyone's like, "Oh no," they think the industry that's indicative of the whole industry.
And
But
you get some old woman or some conscience like, "Oh, someone think of the children."
yeah,
Fuck the children.
yeah, and it's like it's funny too because when you talk to people about the children, and then you're like, oh yeah, well remember Clive Barker back in the day, the Hellraiser series? And I'm like, oh yeah, man, I saw that when I was 12 years old, when I was 10 years old. It's like,
Yeah.
really, Hellraiser, the S&M bondage horror flick? You saw that when you were 10 years old? And they're like, oh yeah. And it's like,
Yep.
then why are you going off?
Then what the fuck is wrong with
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's like you can't be going off about what your kid's playing when you yourself as a child saw things you weren't supposed to,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's okay, but
No. No. It was
Puts
in
it into
different
context
times.
anyway.
but yeah, it's like if kids can handle that and turn out reasonable adults, then they can handle this stuff. And like I said, I think the best censoring system with this kind of stuff is just going to be the natural need for substance, with your games. I think it was in the last over on Rage Select on their last podcast, they were talking about this is finally a kind of a golden age or the dawn of a golden age of excellent storytelling in video games.
Yep.
We're just getting into a time where people are really opening up great narratives, and I think that'll start filtering out a lot of junk, because that's just so much more to latch onto with that stuff than just wander around killing NPCs. Yeah.
Mhm.
And and we'll talk about a few more things. I mean, then we'll wrap up. And when I was first talking to Andy about this, I did think of the fact that, oh, well, like, what kind of a person? Well, we've had, obviously the real tragedies that have happened, which for some reason, some people have decided, like with the Columbine massacre game, that somebody decided, oh, well, I'm going to make a game about that. But apparently, this person who also made this game is a filmmaker and did a documentary about the video game, talking to some of the Columbine survivors and like various other people about it. I don't know to what extent actually happens in the movie. All I can think of is like, you made this game where you play the kids who go around the school and murder their fellow students and teachers.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but I have to ask, like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah. But yeah, you bring up and the thing that gets me about stuff like that when people do those kinds of it's not quite a bait and switch, but it's kind of being a thing where that philosophical.
Oh, well, I was doing it, because I wanted to have a message or be able to have like some sort of a dialogue about it. Like, there are better ways to do that than making the game out of the controversy.
Yeah, and it's that cheap example of oh, I hold a mirror up, say, aha, you're the monster in this thing. It's like, well, no, you made the player
The
kill.
monster.
It's like say, yeah, you made the player go around killing those students. You didn't create a choice. You didn't create a scenario where you can choose not to. You forced a experience, and then you turn around and try to make it like, well, you're the. It's like, no, 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 no. And again, it's like, when you try to capitalize on controversy, I think just about 99% of the time, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons, and it's going to turn out poor.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, and to be fair, I haven't played it. I've only heard about it, but it does basically look like, oh, like you do control these characters and you go around and you kill people and you get experience points for doing it. I think you do, because it does say that it's an RPG. Let me read into it. It's a role-playing video game created by some douchebag, released in 2005. The game recreates the 1999 Columbine high school shootings. Players assume the roles of gunmen Eric Harris and Dylan Colbin and act out the massacre with flashbacks relating parts of Harris and Colbin's past experiences. The game begins on the day of the shootings and follows Harris and Colbin after their suicides to fictional adventures in perdition.
yeah,
Huh.
Yep.
okay. And, it's that thing with all these other any other medium that just comes about after controversy it's a knee-jerk reaction to the controversy. They make a game on Columbine or they make a game on Sandy Hook. They don't make games about mentally disturbed teenagers or mentally disturbed 20-somethings. Because they're riding that controversy. I don't know if you can call it a cash grab because it's not that lucrative. But
well, and a lot of the time too, I imagine that a lot of these games, like there's a game called JFK Reloaded, where you play as Lee Harvey and you assassinate.
Again.
Yeah. Basically you just. Yeah, and I mean, like, I imagine that like games, like these that there's. Yeah, I mean, since they are obviously not out in the mainstream, that I have to imagine that a lot of the time people who make these are probably not making much money off of them.
If they're making any at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think it'd probably be more for the notoriety coming off the controversy, just trying to
And
get a name out there.
I was actually just about ready to say it. They're just doing it to get their 15 minutes.
Yeah, which is just...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that is sad and pathetic. And I kind of debated with myself, especially for a while, after hearing about Hatred, like... I was originally thinking about doing a video on it, but then I thought, like, oh, like, should I really do that, and, like, give this thing, like, more fuel and blah, blah, blah. But, no, like, because there is something to be said about it and something certainly, to talk about out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I feel like there is a lot more that we should try to talk about out of this, but there's really, I guess, I don't know what more else could be said that has already been said and probably been well said enough, is that things like these violent behaviors or thoughts that I'm sure everybody has, I mean, we all do. I mean, I know I have my bad days.
I've certainly had a few fantasies like that. The main difference is I don't act out on them.
No, but like I'll have a day or two where you feel like you're going to snap. Where you have that thought in your head where like I could stab and kill every motherfucker in this room right now, but you don't do it because that there would be controversy. Well,
yeah, there would be consequences, and you would wind up in jail, probably getting raped by some guy named Bubba.
Yeah, and also there's that moral being in you that tells you like, oh, just get over it. You'll be fine. This is just another day in life and work. And you're just stressed out. You can go home. You can relax after this. You can forget all about it. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't even have to be anger based, really, because you think about like other games that aren't based on killing innocents. Like most recently, I've been enjoying Shadow of Mordor, and you think about it, a game's completely ridiculous. Especially as you get up in power, you're just walking through hundreds of orcs, just slashing and hacking them to pieces.
Yeah.
Just.
It's a murder fantasy.
It becomes a power murder fantasy where you can take on all the bad guys like it's nothing. You can just walk through an army of orcs. Meanwhile, physically taking control of them. It does boil down to a point of a power fantasy where you're not necessarily hurting. Again, and this does bring up the topic of morality and, ethics of who is good guy, bad guys, and all that. But at least in Shadow of Mordor, you've been wronged, and they are your enemies trying to kill you as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, then you have games like that where Shadow of Mordor, it's very much you become this powerful thing. So it doesn't always have to be like a violence based or attrition based, but sometimes it's just you want to feel powerful, and you want to feel like you have an effect even on this little fantasy world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm sure other people could make or certainly have made that same argument against Hatred, and try to compare it or try to compare it to a game like the Shadow of Mordor. But again, the great counter argument could be like, well, they're trying to kill you too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's actual content there.
Yeah.
You're not just killing them because you want to kill them.
Yeah. And yeah, Hatred does certainly look, again, like it is a power murder fantasy, which, anybody could say like, oh, well, who hasn't ever thought of that? Like, oh, like if I was bigger and stronger, I could do whatever the hell I wanted. But at that same time, like, you think, like, well, even if I did, I would try to be a better and good person, despite the fact that I do have this advantage. Or at least you hope, that you would have, that sense of mind, to be able to, say that to yourself and actually be able to do that. This just says, well, I'm going to take that power and I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want because fuck society and fuck normality, and fuck your morals, middle finger to the man, I'm an adult, just every, childish thing that you can think of.
Yep. It's kind of a game made for 13-year-olds, but no 13-year-old should be allowed to play it.
Yeah, well, and also seeing as how this game has the rating of adults only, no 13-year-old can play it.
Yeah.
So.
Per se, but again, kids have been taking advantage of rating systems for ever since
yeah.
But, but that is the thing. They're not supposed to be playing that game, because it's, again, like I said, it's meant for adults. But I think the other thing is, that and again, going back to other podcasts that I've talked about the whole thing with power fantasy and what is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it natural or whatever? I think, again, the thing that sets, again, without playing Hatred and just looking through the gameplay and doing as much research as I can on it, the thing that separates it is content. And, the thing that separates it is context, as well. Like we said with the whole Shadow of Mordor thing, it's like, well, you're violently slaughtering orcs in that same manner. You're stabbing them in the head, slicing heads off left and right, pretty brutal stuff. The context being, though, is you're at war with them, and at the same time, the game, and I think the whole thing with the games like Hatred and stuff is, at the end of the day, do you put away those games and realize, okay, that was fun, that was a game. Now it's time for the real world, where there are consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow of Mordor isn't trying to pass itself off as reality. It's not trying to say, go out and murder people. There won't be any consequences for it. Even Grand Theft Auto, I think, Grand Theft Auto has its own consequences, for going crazy inside of it. The five-star system and all that. And it's looking like Hatred has, you can die in the game. That'd be my guess, is that it does get progressively harder and stuff. But it seems like the whole thing of context and content and all that is just kind of not there. And people might be able to pick it up and play it and be like, okay, that, power fantasy or whatever. But, without any of those things going for it, it's just, the hell was I going with this anyways? Damn it.
That's all right. It's all right.
But yeah,
Jordan does that too. Goes off on a tangent. He doesn't even know where the heck he's going with it. So,
no,
get me off this crazy train.
Well, I think what you were trying to say was that is there any more context to it than that?
Oh,
no, it certainly doesn't look like it.
Right.
And maybe later on there will be, but for right now,
it looks like that. It looks like its big problem will be style over substance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think like we said, we were talking about earlier. I think give it a little more time, and this thing will just be the past. Won't even, hardly even remember the name of the game.
Yeah. Oh, Hatred. What was that? Oh, yeah. Pfft. Man, that game was a piece of crap. Or, maybe it'll be, oh, yeah, I heard it was okay, but not really worth talking about all that much.
Yeah. Uh,
So like it's an either or. So
Yep.
mm-hmm.
really, we'll just have to wait and see. I would be kind of curious to see if Rage Select is gonna do a Let's Play on. I mean, I don't. I kind of wonder if they would.
It would.
I mean, just to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And to give
It'd
their
be
opinion on it.
interesting to. Yeah, I don't know. Just looking at it, I guess if you really wanted to play something and talk about like violence and stuff in it, you could play something a little more entertaining, like that. Again, I'll say the Punisher game that they stole their mechanics from. Uh, at least in that, it's like the violence uh is to a ridiculous level that it's entertaining. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that might be a better game for an audience to play through it, because then at least then you have like over the top stuff. You've got comic book things going on. Hatred, and just looking at it, it's like as crazy as the violence might be. I think that would just get boring after 5 minutes. It's just, even and I know a lot of people have accused Hatred of having some kind of racial agenda behind
Well,
it.
the racial things came out of because the CEO behind Hatred has been accused of having neo-Nazi, anti-Islamic affiliations due to liking some pages on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean that can come out of a lot of these hyper conservative groups out there, but I don't
Yeah.
think that this was a deliberate attempt at any kind of rape.
Well, and it certainly doesn't look like that there is. Well, hell, I mean, you probably can't tell at all from the trailer.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
again, it's just a trailer, so you can't ever really tell that much from a
Right.
trailer.
And I mean go looking at the gameplay that I've seen, it looks like it's just everybody dies. It's not just racially targeting anyone or anything like that. It's just like I say, it's old 90s trench coat mafia. I hate everybody. Everybody sucks. I'm going to kill everybody, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, and a lot of people have kind of shut that down as, just kind of doesn't really stick, with this game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because for me, I mean, after thinking like, oh God, this is disgusting. This is deplorable. I can't believe that something like this. Because those were my initial thoughts as both a human being and a gamer. Most especially, just from the number of comments on the video. But then initially, after a few days of thinking about it and then talking to Andy a little bit about it, finally I realized, like, if you put aside the controversy, this whole thing just looks really stupid.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And, and it's not really worth talking. Well, too late. I mean,
Yes.
we've already been talking about it for...
God knows we
Talking about
tried.
over an hour and a half here.
Yeah. But, I mean, it is a good subject to talk about because this will kind of, maybe bring a little bit more to the forefront of, controversy, violence in gaming. Like, well, like, you got other games who do this. Like, yeah, but that's from a different context at all than from what this is. Like, for example, a short-lived game series that I haven't played and I do own, the Manhunt series.
Oh yeah, yep.
That was called like the most violent video game ever made. And I did a little bit more reading up on those, and and from what I saw, before reading any of the material or anything like that, was that from all the screen captures and still images and everything that I was seeing, like, it still looks like a kill or be killed game. I mean, hell, it says it in the title, Manhunt. You're being hunted.
Mm-hmm.
You are you are killing out of self-defense, and you're killing gang members, and other people that are trying to kill you.
People who pose a legitimate threat to you.
Yeah. And Helen, there is a point in the game where you fight and kill neo-Nazis and pedophiles. It even describes them as such in the game. So, what? So you got a problem with killing neo-Nazis and pedophiles?
Well, again, that brings up ethical issues of just killing people in general.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
Again, just like we keep
If
saying.
you're killing somebody in a fictional universe,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, it's a hard thing for me to say. Like, in reality, would it be okay to murder a piece of shit, anger, hatred spewing person who makes it their livelihood? All I want to do is spread hate, of hating somebody else just because of the fact that they're different. Is it okay if I kill that person? In my mind, I would say yes. I mean, I wouldn't actually ever, go through with it or tell somebody to do it. I would certainly think that it's okay. I don't know if I would ever actually go through with it.
Yeah, and there you go. And you go on the whole power fantasy thing.
Yeah.
You knowing the difference between a fantasy and reality.
Yeah.
Yep.
But actually, since we were talking about more modern games, you brought up Manhunt. Even more recent was Call of Duty had a segment in it was Call of Duty, and I think 2 games ago they had a segment.
Oh, the Modern Warfare 2, the airport massacre.
Yes.
You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That was
Yeah.
another example. That was actually a major studio doing that.
Yeah. That was incredibly controversial, I'm sure. Incredibly controversial. I mean, hell, I was playing that game, and that scene came up. What the fuck? Oh my God. I'm actually participating. But it's also a plot point within the game.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I mean, hell, they use it to set up that, you had an American agent among these terrorists who took part in it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So again, context, content, context, and even that, it's up for its own debate. But I think like we keep saying, I think when it comes to this game, it is just we've been even just to talk about it, just from the research we've done on it.
you know what? This is interesting. I'm reading about the airport massacre on here. It actually says in here that the player is given the option to skip the level at any point.
See, there you go. Yeah.
So, but that wasn't the only controversy. It was also the favela level as well that was in here. I remember hearing about that.
What was the remind me what the favela?
It was complaints from Muslim gamers, which shows picture frames on the second floor bathroom of one building within favela. What? When viewed through a scoped weapon, the frames contain a quote from Muhammad that translate to Allah is beautiful and he loves beauty. Really?
And they got upset because of that?
Well, was it because it was in the bathroom or something? Because I know there's I know
one of the paintings is and one of the paintings is located directly above a toilet.
That could be why, I would guess. I mean,
maybe that's why, but even then, it sounds like it's pretty obscure. I mean, this guy had to find it by looking through his scoped weapon.
Yeah, it's But
again, I'm not Muslim or religious of any kind, so and so those kind of things, they don't bother me. They don't. Well, I mean, it would probably depend on how far you took something like that.
Yeah.
Where I would think ooh, somebody's gonna get offended.
Yeah,
Not me though, because I don't give a shit. But
Yeah, that.
that I can kind of understand. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you earlier.
Uh, um, I'll probably have to come. Oh, no, I was just going back, just kind of summing up on hatred. Yeah, like I said, I think give this a little while, and it'll just be a footnote in history. I mean, we've been struggling to talk about it for a couple hours here. Not even a couple hours, because I mean, it's just, you know, and this is nothing new to gamers. That's the thing. I guess we're all still kind of worried that people who are outside the industry, as expansive as it is now, will go look at the industry and be like, "Oh, look what the industry's turning out." And it's like, no, nobody's
No,
playing this game. You have like a couple hundred people, maybe, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
This is a side note of the whole video game industry in general. Not even a decent one at that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, and it's also the fact too that we're seeing something like this that's being kind of pushed out into the mainstream, or at least it's trying to make its way out into the mainstream. I mean, right now, it's only going to be on Steam. I mean, it's clearly not going to be out on. I mean, hell, man, I could never see this coming out to the, to the main gaming consoles, any of the Xbox One, 360, PS3, PS4.
no.
At least not without probably heavy censorship and editing.
Yeah, I seriously doubt any of the department stores or anything like that is going to have it out there.
No. Well, and hell, and from what I understand, how the adults only rating works is that it prevents it from being released on storefront shelves.
Yeah.
That's the way that gaming rating works. It says that the game was rated adults only, but by the ESRB, which prevents retail sales at its release on consoles and would likely prevent its sale on digital storefronts for personal computers, though it is coming to Steam. But I was gonna say something earlier, but I can't remember what it was. Were you trying to say something extra there, QuickKick?
No, that was about it. Andy, how about you?
Nope, I'm pretty much good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, final thoughts. Controversy in gaming, which for a while there I thought was only restricted, obviously to violence or racism or anti-feminism, or anything like that. But hell, I mean, you could pick a game like South Park, The Stick of Truth, that would obviously have controversy written all over it because, hey, it's South Park. Of course it's going to be controversial.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, it was censored over in Europe and Australia, but it was censored, not because it was violent or anything like that, but because of an anal probing scene, and various other reasons. And hell, like you got, other weird random examples like Mario Party 8, ends up on this list, or Zelda ends up on this list. But, you also have the games like the JFK Reloaded, Super Columbine Massacre RPG. Hell, Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball is on here.
Yeah, can see that.
Obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder why that's on there.
But controversy can be incredibly silly at times, as we've clearly seen here.
Mm-hmm.
It can be disgusting. It can be, and a lot of times, sadly, controversy will be what will often sell something too. Like for me, I remember hearing about Mortal Kombat. Now, I didn't hear about the controversy beforehand. I did certainly hear about it afterwards by about probably Mortal Kombat 2 or 3 or so.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit, seeing more of the new game now, that it does look like it is getting a lot more intense with its violence, which even that, the other day when I saw part of the trailer for it, made me go, whoa, wow, they're getting pretty realistic for that shit. Where, but, and, you know, and like, I remember, you know, just hearing about that, you know, from like fellow students, you know, when I was a kid, just hearing like, ooh, wow, yeah, you know, I mean, that sounds like fun. I would love to play that. And, you know, and there was nothing more to that. And for those kind of games, you know, where you get people who claim like, oh, well, you know, those kids at Columbine, you know, they played, you know, games like Doom and Wolfenstein 3D. So did I.
And so did most every other kid back in that day and age.
I played a lot of those kind of games, but I also played other games too. Like, hell, like, you want to see the library of hours I accumulated to Super Metroid or Chrono Trigger, while I also played Mortal Kombat or Doom or various other games. What it does boil down to a lot of factors. It boils down to mental stability. To your whatever kind of social life it is that you might have, whatever kind of home life. There are obviously a lot of factors.
Yeah.
I don't think a game, a movie, a video game, comic book, any form of medium is going to affect how a person works or reacts in society. Unless, you know, maybe depending on how they're raised. But, like, hell, like, there was a story a year or so ago about a 10-year-old who, playing Grand Theft Auto 5, got a hold of a gun and shot his grandmother, and all anybody would talk about was, he was playing Grand Theft Auto 5, blah, blah. Why was a 10-year-old playing Grand Theft Auto 5, and where and how the hell did he get his hands on a gun?
Yeah.
Nobody bothered to ask those two questions.
Well,
So-
they never do.
Well, no, of
It's
course
a
not.
sad thing about society, but we would much rather blame everybody else
We
or
would rather
things
wanna blame
around
something else.
those things, or what the kid was doing, rather than blame the parents, teachers, or even the kid himself.
because for some people, sadly, the television is the babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
Or
And
in
God
this
forbid
case-
we actually talk to each other.
Yeah. Well, now then, if you excuse me, I am going to go play some incredibly violent video games and then furiously masturbate. Good night, everybody.
Somebody play out the Looney Tunes theme right now.
All right. But seriously though, what are your guys' final thoughts? QuickKick?
Good Lord, it's hard to really add to what I already haven't said. Yeah, like I said before, just these kind of controversies aren't anything new to the video game industry. You know, we've seen it, back in the late 80s, early 90s, and with Doom and the Columbine shootings. We had it in the 90s with Grand Theft Auto and the whole, beat the whore to death, take her money scandal. It just every few years we have these things, and they're always very knee-jerk reactionary things. So when it comes to games like Hatred, it's just like, it's most of us can see it for what it is, and we don't give it two thoughts. Maybe it'll get a couple hundred plays just based off of the news that's caused. But, again, it's just the smallest of footnotes in the long history of video games, which, maybe there have been some bad sheep among the video games in history, but, we've got all these other fantastic, properties that have come out over the years, so I think we can do much better as far as controversies go in the industry. I think we could better spend our time focusing on other things, and just leave these little footnotes in the past where they belong. Yeah, I'm really hoping somebody makes a video talking about if this thing is true about them taking Punisher's uh, mechanics or their skins or even their cinematics and just copying pasting them into their game. Uh,
Well, and I mean, to be honest about that whole thing, I'm with the Punisher thing. I haven't replayed Punisher since the first time I played it. Um, I don't remember being able to do straight up gun the straight up gun executions.
mhm.
Uh, I do remember a lot of the interact with the level uh, executions. Uh, if that's not the same thing, I could. Well, actually, I do wonder. Because a lot of the time I forget exactly what it is that I do and don't own in my collection.
Right.
So much so that there have been a few times where I've bought the same copy of a game that I already owned and just forgot that I owned it. But I do wonder if that is the same thing. Who knows? Maybe somebody could find out and verify that. But not a lot of people listen to this, or really any people really listen to this podcast, sadly. So we probably will not get any feedback on that.
Oh, upsell.
So,
Gotta
man, you gotta pimp this shit. Like I do.
convince the
My
customer.
audience is small.
Yeah, but yeah, and I'll just wrap it up by saying, that there may be something else to the ending of this game. I doubt there's any kind of redeeming quality to it. So I just say, hey, we're better off served looking forward to the coming year where we got so much goodness to look forward to. Yeah, I mean, we got, not only some fantastic, we got the movies coming out, but we got Star Wars Battlefront should be coming out this year.
Okay. I thought that you were talking about the episode 7.
That too, but Star Wars Battlefront finally should be it's slated to come out this year. So I'd say, with all the time we spent talking about this game, we might as well be talking about something like that.
The only other game I'm looking forward to, I mean, mainly, I would like to get a PS4 at some point this year, so I can even go back to a few other games like the definitive edition of Tomb Raider, because I've heard that that's a good game. I just never really got to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I would like to look forward to the No Man's Sky.
Oh yeah.
Game. But like doubt is kind of setting in about that with the other gameplay trailer that they showed, where you pull into a station and you get out, but you don't, or like they don't show you interact with anybody or anything. You just get out and then get back into your ship. And it's like, okay, so can you do anything else in this game but fly around from planet to planet and explore? Like, do you actually do anything? Because they haven't really shown if there's any other form of gameplay. So there is, that big moment of doubt of like, oh God, I do hope that you do actually do more than just that, because if not, I'm going to be really disappointed by this.
Mm-hmm.
But, I want to hold out for hope, but luckily there are a few other games I do want to play. Like, I really want to play that Shadow Warrior game. That's also on the PS4, and there will probably, I'm sure there'll be a whole bunch of other new and interesting titles that'll be coming out over the year that are going to blow my mind away and make me go, oh my god, I want to play that. That looks awesome. Anyway, Andy, what are your final thoughts?
The only final thought I have is really that these controversies, they're not going to go away.
No.
It's something that...
There's always going to be something...
Yeah, be it video games, movies, hell, even books and TV shows.
Oh, yeah.
There will always be controversies because, sadly, controversy sells.
Well, controversies sell. People are easily offended.
Yeah.
And hell, I mean, and...
Yeah, and back to what QuickKick was saying about, like, this happening every 3 years. Yeah, and it's usually some senator who's never played a game in his life. Usually gets all humped and it's like, video games are the downfall of society.
You haven't even played it. You don't know what you're talking about.
It's kind of like back in the 40s, back there in the golden age of comics when one psychologist was making a correlation to people in jail and what did they read? Comics. So immediately thought, it's like, oh, it's the comics that are making them do this.
Well, that was a more stupid time. So
Yeah, but we still have people who believe that, though.
yeah.
Well, yeah, and
That's
it's like Andy was saying, it's just when again knee-jerk reaction when you're not involved with an industry and you try to make commentary or even worse, you try to make legislation on that industry, it is no good.
Yeah. I do. I will say finally. I don't. I'm against. I am against. Censorship. But I'm also against people abusing the right of free speech to just say that, oh well, I can use free speech to just spout my message of hate. Morally, I think that that's wrong.
Censorship has its place, but you can't trample over everything for the sake of censorship.
Yes. Now, and people are probably going to call me a hypocrite because, oh, well, what about the number of people whose comments that you delete from your YouTube page? Half the time, I mean, that happens very rarely. I mean, I never deleted...
And the people that you're deleting are just flat out insulting you.
Yeah, and, and I don't need to tolerate that shit. It's my YouTube channel. I can do whatever the hell I want. And I never deleted the guy's comment who told me to shut the fuck up, because that was just all he said, and it was nothing much more to it than that. Because that's kind of my rules. As long as if you're not, just spewing out horrible, hated words at me, I won't, delete you or anything like that. But again, it's rare when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Censorship and freedom of speech. Censorship, is needed to an extent. I don't really think anything should be overly censored. Again, it's one of those very, very, very tricky
it's something that's very difficult to balance out, but it's something that...
Yeah, and I mean that's obviously not something that we could really try to debate, because again, we're not experts.
No.
But it is certainly something that does need to be talked about.
It's something that needs to be discussed.
Definitely. And I hope that we have done that to some extent, certainly to a very long extent.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try and cut this now. Long after I said I was going to eventually wrap this up. I do apologize. But, hey, this was a great discussion, and I think that we got a lot of great stuff out of this. So, everybody, I hope that you've enjoyed. And I don't know when will be the next time we'll do this. I know because originally over the weekend I was going to try and do an interview with Mr. Jason Murphy of Rage Select. But that has been pushed back to I don't know when. He said he might be able to do sometime later this week. So I guess we'll see about that perhaps in the near future. If not, we can pull different new topics directly out of my ass for us to talk about perhaps in the future. And QuickKick, I hope that you would be interested in maybe trying to join us maybe a little bit more regularly. Of course, I would try to give you, plenty of notice as opposed to, hey, we're going to record today. Would you like to join us?
Yeah, we'll see. as you know, I'm in the middle of transferring from one ninja clan to the next.
Yes, sir.
So when that gets all done, I'm sure I'll be popping up here and there on other medias as well as this one.
Yes.
Yep.
Hopefully, that would be nice.
Yes, it would.
Well, all right, everybody. We'll be signing out for now. QuickKick, would you like to tell people where they can find you on the internets, on the Twitters,
Sure.
if you care to share that?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. Just look up Quick Kick, and you should be able to pop me up. I'm the guy in ninja attire. You can also find me on Twitter at Quick Kick _spill. And let's see here. Yeah, I'd say those are the two best bets to find me.
Yeah. I would prefer people not because the only other Facebook page I have is for the reviews from the Room series that I did for a little while, which I should try to get back into at some point. But then the rest of the time, the only other Facebook page I have is my own, and I'd rather not unknowns try and hit me up or try and friend me. Because I had to learn a long time ago, like, only friend people that you know. So, but you can find me on Twitter at JR@3709. I try to post and share as much as my stuff on Twitter and my Facebook as I possibly can. Until next time, everybody, this was the Other People Podcast. Andy, you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
And we will see you guys next time. Ciao!